So for our next lesson on Jack the Ripper, we're going to look at the actual investigation, what the police did. So we're going to learn about the hunt for the killer. We're going to understand why it did not succeed. The police never caught this guy. We think it's a guy. And they never even really got close. And we can develop our historical thinking skills. Lots of key words. Police, detective, officers, and investigation. When you look into something, you investigate, try and find out what happened. You patrol, the witness, identify, suspect, forensics, talk about that in a minute, we did a lesson, DNA, fingerprints, CCTV, poverty, prostitution, street lamp, and dim. Okay, so first a bit of intro. The police tried very hard to catch the killer. The problem was it was very difficult for them. The police certainly flooded Whitechapel with police all the way through these murders. It wasn't for lack of trying they didn't catch the guy, but there were certain problems. Problem one, it's dark. The killer operates at night. They don't have electrical street lamps like we have today, which means that when night fell, the streets became very, very dark, much darker than today. A lot of back alleys have no lighting, so virtually pitch black. Even the main streets only had these sort of gas lights here. Basically, it looks like a big candle in a glass box. So the streets are dark, making it very difficult for the police to see anybody or to catch anybody. As an example, in a dim light, if somebody is covered, has dark clothing and is covered in blood, you can't see. So the killer could have cut somebody's throat, got blood all over their clothing, and walked past you in the street and you wouldn't have noticed. So firstly, the streets of London are very dark at night, much darker than today. This is because the street lamps are just gas flames, like a big candle. This made it difficult for the police to see anybody, or for anyone to see a killer covered in blood, because it's so dark the blood doesn't show up. Second problem, the coppers were not well equipped. This is standard policeman's equipment of the time. So there's a truncheon, that's a little candle inside a tin with a lens for a torch, handcuffs and a whistle. That's the communication equipment, there's no radios. So the police don't have all the stuff we have today. No helicopters, no cars, nothing like that. They got around using their feet. So secondly, the equipment of the police was very, keyword, primitive, basic. For communication they had the whistles. For seeing at night they had a candle in a tin. For getting around they had their feet. No radios, no cars, no helicopters. Third big problem, no witnesses. Nobody ever saw the killer. Nobody saw the killer kill anybody. No one could say to the police, oh, I know what he looked like. He looked like this. So another big problem was that there were no witnesses. And so nobody could give the police a description of the killer. No witnesses. Didn't happen. Fourth problem, no clues, no forensics like we have today. Today, if you have a murder like this, you surround the area with tape, police arrive, various scientists arrive who work for the police, and they look for fingerprints, DNA, blood type, hair, all that business. None of that existed at the time. Yeah? There were no forensics, no scientific clues you could use. So the police, detectives, had an almost impossible job to catch the killer. They had almost no clues and did not have the forensic evidence the police use today, e.g. no fingerprints, no DNA, there's no CCTV to watch, that didn't exist back then, nightmare. Another big problem is motive. In a normal murder investigation, the detectives speak to everybody who knew the victim and try and find out, well, who wanted to kill them, who were they related to, who were their friend. It's normally one of them. In this case, this does not work because the killer didn't know the victims. Therefore, we don't know what the motive is, so he can't trace it back. And finally, because of poverty, because there was no benefit, nothing like that, the prostitutes, women, had to keep on working. They didn't have any other way to make a living, and therefore no other way to survive. So the victims were always on the streets. Even though they were terrified of after these murders, they'd still be out there. So the police couldn't stop that. So the final problem, so the prostitutes had to keep on working because of poverty. They had no other way to make any money.